Jig.
Hello everyone, welcome to our first slow pitch jigging trip in 2022. Today we are riding on the boat El Dorado operating out of Long Beach, California, and it was an overnight trip. We're fishing around the San Clemente island for the most part, and the weather was pretty rough in the morning. The main target species for this particular fishing ground was Yellowtail, and we had a slow start. So I switched to my slow pitch jigging gear and see what species we can catch in the ocean. I was mainly doing lifting and pitch to try and cover the entire water column. And this jumbo mackerel took my bait. So that's the first fish of the year for me. With no luck for Yellowtail, the captain relocated us to the rock fishing ground. We started off with fishing around 200 feet deep. And the first fish was pretty instant. After just one pitch, when the jig reached the bottom, the fish took the bite.
Oh, 25.
Since we were fishing anywhere from 200 feet to 350 feet deep water, I wanted to use a jig that's heavy and also has a slender shape. Unfortunately, I didn't bring enough heavy weights since I thought that the fishing ground is going to be 100 to 150 feet deep. So the best jig I had for that day was the Johnny Flatty 180 gram. That's one of my trusted jigs. With this stop, we were fishing over 300 feet deep water, and the jig was almost instantly bit when it reached the bottom. The reel I used on this trip was the Shimano Ocea Jigger F Custom 1500, and that was probably the most smooth reel I've ever fished with. This vermilion rockfish turned out to be 3 pounds and 14 ounces and was the heaviest vermilion rockfish on that boat that day.
25.
Here I remember very clearly that I was fishing right next to a couple of bait fishermen, and in this case my jig was bit, but their bait wasn't. After the rock fishing, we went back to the shallow water to target yellowtail, whitefish, and white sea bass, hopefully. In this fishing ground, the water was about 100 feet deep, so I was using a jig that's 100 gram. At some point I felt a bite, and as I was started to reeling in, I noticed that it was a big fish because it was taking line off.
Yep. 对对对，那。
This was quite exciting since it could have been the largest fish I've ever fought with a slow pitch setup. And as you can tell in the video, I started to tighten the drag, which is probably not something I should have done. After fighting for about a minute, the fish pulled the hook. There was probably nothing I could do at that moment since the line wasn't broken, the hook was not bent, it simply just pulled off. I wonder if I didn't tighten the drag, would that fish still be on the hook at that point? I didn't really feel disappointed at that time because I was still surprised that a huge fish actually bit on the slow pitch jigging in this water on this tiny jig. My drag was set to be around 10 pounds and that fish took it off like it was nothing. So I figure it could have been a yellowtail, a white sea bass, could have been a shark. At this point, we don't know what happened. For the macro fishing, I could feel that they were playing around, they were trying to bite the jig when the jig was still sinking. So as soon as I felt the bite, I started reeling in. The trip concluded with a sculpin. Overall, it was a tough fishing trip. The weather condition was not great in the morning, but to me, it was still a very fun trip. It was the first trip of the year. I caught some really nice rockfish. I also got a chance to really fight a very big fish. I just don't know what that is, but the fact that I was testing the limit of my equipment with such a huge fish itself is an opportunity for me to really evaluate if there are any weaknesses in my setup. And overall, it was a learning experience, and I look forward to the next trip. Thank you everyone for watching.